Hi, this is Homay from Spitfire Audio. I hope you're all keeping well, and I'd like to welcome you to my makeshift home studio, from which I want to show you how I made the music to a trailer, more specifically the Stratus trailer. It's been another beautiful collaboration with the incredibly talented Ólafur Arnalds. Let's have a quick look and a listen. It comes in the form of this matrix, which allows you to generate all these different piano performances, which have been put together on a really carefully programmed basis. So each of these individual rows represent a different pattern, and these patterns have been calculated so you get these polyrhythms that sound super lovely. Downwards gives you the amount of voices. You can simply click the number itself. If you want to go into more detail though, Paul's made a really cool walkthrough, so be sure to go and check that one out. So let's have a look at how I approach this. Usually when I get a file, I load it into Movie over here, I open it, and then drag it over to bar 5. One of the reasons being that if I wanted to nudge the film around a little bit, I want to make sure I don't end up behind bar 1. So I go into tempo mapping, and just to quickly demonstrate, I want to drag it in, and it's on SMPTE position 0. Bar 1, I simply just type in the number of the bar that I want it to be at, and it then locks over there together with the audio. Also then double check that my timecode here is matching up with the printed one on the video. So usually go to the end of it, and yeah, still looks right, so that's all good. Let's have a look at the trailer without any music. Whilst I watch this back, I usually try and gauge what sort of tempo this could work in, and actually have an app on my phone where you can just tap it in and it's just giving you the BPM. It's called Tempo. The brief for this was to have it really dreamy, get lost in time, have it really beautiful sounding. Here's my first big change. We're going from the trains up into the clouds. Wanted to highlight these symbols coming in here. These squares here as well. And then here's another turning point for me. It turns a lot darker. It gets a lot moodier. One way to look at how the tempo could work is to look at the movement within the image and also the pace of the cuts. So that has definitely picked up a little bit here. Have a lot of stormy weather here. At this point, everything is brightening up. We're going into pink skies. And then we're also revealing the name of the artist. And here, the name of the actual product is being revealed as well. So we definitely want to have some sort of resolve at the end. Alright, so the tempo came to around 118 for me. And then also put these big markers up here as well to give me a bit of a guideline. And I've also thought about instrumentation. Do I only want to use Stratus or any other library with that too? We actually have another one that we've done with Ólafur Arnalds called Chamber Evolutions, which is a really beautiful string library. I'm just going to play it to you quick. you get these really beautiful waves that do these natural crescendos and diminuendos, so you don't have to do the programming yourself. My main focus for now though is Stratus. I tried out a few patterns trying to keep this absent-mindedness and being lost in your thoughts, imagining staring out of the window and you have all these posts coming past you in a very repetitive manner. So I found one that I stuck with called Rhythmic Attacks, simply meaning it has a harder attack and then it dies away. Also, I've chosen to go with just one rhythm for now and have this repetitive theme to begin with. Keep it nice and simple at the beginning and then layering it with some strings. So the waves that I've just played to you, by the way, they come in this GUI and you get a few different articulations. You have normal longs and some tremolos and also some vibrato patches and different mic signals as well. Then there's another patch within there called Chamber Evolution, simply meaning that the string sounds within there is evolving over time. And I'm just using some expression and dynamics, expression being CC11 and dynamics also being called modulation, CC1. That really helps me to just breathe a bit more life into it. Let's listen to that together. At this point, I wanted to highlight Lose Track of Time and thought I'd go into another library, the only other one I've used for this one, called Albion 1, and there are some really cool Easter Island hits. And what I found is actually one that really nicely replicates train tracks. I'm building up to that moment of the shot where it says Lose Track of Time. And then here I had all these flittering images, these ones, and I wanted to bring those out. So I was thinking of actually using more synthetic sounding patches, and within Stratus you actually can find, beside the matrix patches that you have within there, there's also a folder called Warps. There you can find loads of different synth sounds. Here I have one called Granular Piano. And then also Random Access Memory. I thought I'd bring them a little bit forward, avoiding trying to have everything strict coming in with the images, and I found that it connected really nicely, partially because we were introducing a different type of sound in there, and also because of the way the sound acts. It imitates these flickering, flittering images nicely. I felt that worked out fine and was happy to move on to the next section. Here we have it just drop into a black screen. So I'm using the reverb of my previous section to sort of just let it hang and tie over into the next part. And because the scenery changed from within the train to being up in the clouds, I wanted to make this a little bit more noticeable. There's also more movement going on, and I had this arpeggiated line here, which I actually had at the very beginning when I was just trying out things. Didn't really feel it sat there very well, although I liked the feel of it, so I've just moved it over and it suddenly made a lot more sense here. It may have been also a slightly unorthodox way to use it like that, as you get these really beautiful patterns when you hold down the notes, but because I added a little bit of release on there, you still get these really lovely polyrhythms in the tail, and it ended up being this really lovely effect, so I kept it. Also quickly at this point I want to show you a really cool feature this library has, which is called Piano Overlay, simply meaning that you can add on top of these rhythms a playable piano, so the attack of the piano comes through more. Also, before I move on, this has worked out better at 116 at this point. Coming into the section, I wanted to make a bit more of a point of it, accent it more, so I'm coming back with the rhythmic attacks. Also layering that with a bass, for which I'm using one of the whoops patches. And sticking with the synth sounds, I've got a really lovely ethereal pad here, just to help opening it up a bit. Over here, I'm introducing some synth sounds. So these are synth looped rhythms, and they are based on the same principle as the piano rhythms. I think they sound really incredible. Just really subtle for now. I then bring back some more string sounds, have them carrying the slower, emotive, overarching theme, trying to keep it dreamy still. Alright, here we said we want to highlight the square of cymbals. I'm going back to my synthesized sounds, trying to keep those type of sounds more for the abstract images. I'm using a similar combination. So I've got the random access memory, and then also here is some graded keys. At the same time, I gave this moment a bit more of a lift. With a fuller chord within the strings, I'm using this tremolo waves patch. Again, it's this beautiful crescendo and diminuendo. I need to start thinking about the next section, which is coming up over here. So that means I need to think about finishing my phrase and what I want to do with the rest of this. As we've seen earlier, the mood changes a lot. It goes a lot darker, so maybe we change it up. There's still the squares that I wanted to give a little nudge. So I'm coming back in with the bass over here and try to also follow the movement a little bit with the smaller squares and circles coming in. Just very gently. To finish this phrase, I have these beautiful, delicate, high strings to help me with the fade out. Here everything's turning darker and it's definitely a change of mood. And within the next shot, we have these square cymbals again. So again, bringing back the synth sounds I had from earlier, slightly changing it up, but having a similar quality to them. I'm introducing a couple more patches here. One's called Amends. Drifting Waves. Two more that work nicely with the cymbals. Also layered it with another Easter Island hit. Here we have a shot saying control the element, so I wanted to make it sound stronger and more decisive. I'm bringing back in some synth loop rhythms, but this time in a lower register, just trying to fit with the imagery I'm seeing with the darker clouds. And then I also layered it with some extra patches, just trying to make these polyrhythms work really nicely, but in a more structured manner. So if you notice at the beginning we only had one rhythm, then in the next section it was a lot more dreamy and aleatoric, and in this section making it a lot more decisive and structured using all these polyrhythms. I layered this with a couple more string patches, and you have different playing choices. And some of them can sound a lot rougher and scratchier and give you a little bit more of these trills within there, make it sound more exciting. And I felt that the chamber waves worked really beautifully at this point here with the images that you get of the water. Harmonically, I wanted to create some intrigue rather than going too sinister, so I'm alternating between major and minor here. And again, I need to think about the next section coming up and how I finish this phrase, because once again, the mood changes a lot, and with that, I want to bring something else in there as well. To help me do that, I'm using an ascending line with the synth loop rhythms. It's now brightening up, we have pink skies, the weather forecast is beautiful. We want to make sure we have that in the music as well. I tried doing that by moving from the low synth sounds back to the piano sounds in a higher register, and also I'm dropping out the bass, so that gives me a couple of things. Everything sounds a lot lighter by not having the bass there, and then also, if we think ahead, we have Ólafur Arnalds' name fading in. That's definitely a moment I wanted to highlight and have a bit more of an impact, so bringing back the bass then definitely helped me with that. Let's look at the piano line first that I have here. I've also used the random access memory patch to help me with the transition from one section into the next. I then wanted to add a hint of anticipation by adding the Spitfire patch over here, just coming in on every beat. And then also tried bringing back the soft, beautiful dreaminess with the strings. So I'm just playing a C minor here. And then, as I suggested earlier, to bring back the bass here as well, making a bit more of an impact. And here we're finally announcing the name of the library, so I'm letting it just hang over there. And then fading out over Spitfire audio. This was pretty much my thought process with this. Let's listen back with everything in mind and see what you think. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you got something out of this. If you want to be notified for more videos, hit the bell button. If you enjoyed the video, you can hit like, and maybe I'll see you in the next one. Bye.